Jackson Chen pressed his weathered palm against the observation deck's reinforced glass, watching the emerald jewel of Kepler 442c's third moon rotate slowly beneath them. 30 years ago, this same celestial body had been nothing more than a barren rock, a cosmic graveyard deemed worthless by every species in the Galactic Coalition. Today it pulsed with life so vibrant that its bioluminescent forest could be seen from orbit. The Vorthak delegation is requesting another delay, Lily Martinez announced from behind him, her voice carrying the weariness of someone who had spent decades fighting bureaucratic battles across star systems. As Earth's chief xenobotanist and Jackson's research partner, she had witnessed firsthand how their reckless human experiment had transformed from galactic mockery to the Coalition's greatest mystery. Jackson turned from the viewport, his graying beard unable to hide his satisfied smile. Let me guess, they want another environmental impact study? The 15th one. Lily activated her holographic display, showing the Coalition chamber where representatives from dozens of species sat in heated debate. The crystalline hegemony is backing them up. They're calling our project an ecological catastrophe waiting to happen. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. 3 decades earlier, these same species had gladly dumped their agricultural waste on the dead moon, considering it the perfect solution to dispose of failed crop experiments, extinct seed varieties, and biological specimens that had proven incompatible with civilized cultivation. The Coalition had offered humans the dumping rights for free, assuming the desperate newcomers to galactic society would be grateful for any territory, even a lifeless rock. What they hadn't counted on was humanity's most dangerous trait, stubborn optimism. Jackson pulled up his personal files, scrolling through images that documented their impossible journey. The first years had been brutal. Working in environmental suits, he and Lily had spent months analyzing the chaotic mixture of genetic material scattered across the moon's surface. Seed pods from the aquatic Murthani civilization lay frozen beside crystalline spores from silicon-based Vorthak colonies, fungal networks from the hive worlds tangled with root systems from species that had gone extinct millennia ago. Any rational species would have declared the project hopeless. The biological incompatibilities alone should have prevented any meaningful growth. But humans, as the galaxy was learning, had a peculiar relationship with the word impossible. Show them the productivity reports, Jackson said, settling into his chair as the Coalition chamber materialized around them via holographic projection. The assembled delegates fell silent as Lily began her presentation. Representatives from 12 major galactic powers floated, sat, or crystallized in their preferred atmospheric bubbles, all attention focused on the humans who had turned their trash into treasure. 30 years ago, you disposed of 847 million tons of biological waste on moon Kepler 442c, third, Lily began, her voice steady despite addressing beings who could incinerate entire solar systems. Today, that moon produces enough food to sustain 40 billion sentients across 15 different biological classifications. A ripple of movement passed through the chamber. The Vorthak delegate, resembling a mobile crystal formation, chimed in harmonics that the translator rendered as skeptical inquiry. This productivity cannot be natural. What genetic manipulation techniques did the humans employ? Jackson stood, his plain work clothes a stark contrast to the elaborate ceremonial gear worn by other delegates. None. The single word hung in the space between species, carrying implications that made several delegates shift uncomfortably in their environmental suits. Impossible, declared the Murthani representative, their aquatic form pulsing with agitation within their water-filled sphere. Our agricultural scientists calculated a 0.003% probability of successful cross-species cultivation. Your agricultural scientists, Lily replied, unable to keep the edge from her voice, assumed that biological incompatibility meant certain failure. They didn't account for the one thing humans do better than any species we've encountered. We refuse to accept that something can't work just because it shouldn't. Jackson activated his own display, showing time-lapse footage of the moon's transformation. Delegates watched in stunned silence as barren landscapes erupted into impossible gardens. Crystalline Vorthak spores had somehow learned to photosynthesize alongside traditional chlorophyll-based plants. Murthani kelp forests thrived in artificially created atmospheric pockets, their nutrients feeding terrestrial root systems that shouldn't have been able to process aquatic minerals. The secret, Jackson explained, wasn't in changing the biology. It was in changing our approach. Instead of trying to make incompatible species work together, we created an ecosystem where incompatibility became advantage. He highlighted specific areas where the most dramatic successes had occurred. Vorthak crystal spores naturally filter atmospheric toxins. We planted them upstream from Murthani kelp beds, which process those filtered compounds into nutrients that terrestrial plants can absorb. The hive world fungal networks distribute these nutrients across vast distances, connecting species that evolved on opposite sides of the galaxy. But the energy requirements, protested a delegate from the hegemony, their form shifting between visible light spectrums. The calculations showed this system should collapse within cycles. Lily smiled, the same expression she had worn when their first hybrid crop had defied every biological law the galaxy accepted. You calculated based on the assumption that each species would maintain its evolutionary limitations. You didn't account for adaptation. She zoomed in on microscopic footage that made several delegates recoil in shock. Root systems and crystal matrices had begun to merge. Kelp fronds carried silicon-based nutrients in patterns that resembled neural networks. Fungal connections pulsed with bioluminescent signals that synchronized with photosynthetic cycles from species that had never shared the same planet. It's not just coexistence, Jackson said quietly. It's evolution in real time. These species are becoming something new, something that couldn't exist anywhere else in the galaxy. The chamber fell into silence that stretched across light years. Finally, the Vorthak delegates' harmonic patterns shifted to what Jackson had learned to recognize as grudging admiration. The humans have accomplished what our combined civilizations deemed impossible, the crystal being admitted. They have created life from our discarded failures. Not created, Jackson corrected, looking out at the green moon that had become humanity's gift to the galaxy. We just refused to believe that failure was permanent. Sometimes the most powerful force in the universe isn't technology or firepower. It's the stubborn belief that broken things can be fixed, and impossible things just need more time. As the coalition delegates began the slow process of acknowledging what humans had achieved, Jackson and Lily returned to the observation deck. Below them, their impossible moon continued its ancient rotation, but now it carried forests that glowed with the light of a dozen different evolutionary paths, all thriving together in defiance of every scientific law the galaxy thought it understood. So, Lily asked, settling beside her old friend as they watched their miracle world turn, what impossible thing should we tackle next? Jackson's eyes were already scanning the star charts, looking for the next dead system that everyone else had given up on. After all, that was what humans did best. They took the galaxy's trash and turned it into treasure, one impossible dream at a time.